It is now my pleasure to turn today's program over to Wayne Curry. Wayne, the floor is yours.
Welcome to the webinar version of the claims presentation for AlaCOMP Business Insurance Group. I am so glad to bring back my native Alabama dialect and the AlaCOMP saddle once again. From my cherished retirement status, promoting the highest quality workers' compensation money can buy at a most affordable price. I believe in AlaCOMP, having trained and or supervised many of the claims adjusters that serve you so well today. I strongly encourage safety as the best way to go, and I value my 7+ years doing two valuable things: saving employees' injuries to some degree, where possible, and saving employers' insurance costs and loss of production costs. I congratulate you for choosing AlaCOMP as your workers' compensation carrier. AlaCOMP Focus. In the workers' compensation system, it is most important to remember that this system demands that the employer, the provider, the employee, and the insured work together to the benefit of all parties. It is imperative that for this system to work and work well, the employee must make their burden of proof that the injury occurred due to performing work. It's equally important, once the employee makes that burden of proof, that the employer either accepts the injury or challenges the injury in a timely manner by using one of the employer defenses. Over this whole process sits the absolute need for safety at all times. A quality safety investigation each and every time an injury occurs, and the need for credible treating doctor chosen by the employer in accordance with the workers' compensation laws of Alabama to restore the injured worker back to a level of work performance. Before you have a look at AlaCOMP's team. The AlaCOMP team is a great team with strong leadership throughout, from a visionary company president to a tried and tested claims manager to a very experienced claims supervisor and a knowledgeable and caring team of adjusters and able claims assistants. AlaCOMP and its employer base are very well served by these professionals. To use a football, naturally in Alabama, analogy, the claims department is filled with starters and first-round draft choices, and they act like success is not new to them, but expected each and every claim. This is what you deserve and why I am so proud to be a part of this AlaCOMP Claims webinar. Don't forget the incredible expertise of our Vice President for Underwriting, giving you the most competitive rates possible and the key to all our success, following in the very big footsteps of our legendary safety guru, Fred Botcher. Now let's begin with the technical information you need to be successful in this process. This webinar presentation is timed for 35 minutes with 10+ minutes for questions, and it's chock full of good ideas. Keep you smart and your team safe. Did you know that for every lost time injury you suffer, it costs you 5 times more than what the worker is paid to cover the replacement costs of the employee on the job? So if the direct cost is $5,000, then your actual loss, the indirect cost, if you will, are really going to be around $25,000, as determined by the WorkComp experts. So no injuries is the best answer and the right answer to conduct the most successful program. Hold your safety professionals and your management staff responsible. They must model the way in reducing significantly the number of accidents you suffer and the severity of these accidents. Add to this, we have a very energetic, just completed the Panama City Triathlon in a very respectable time, and who's absolutely focused on bringing AlaCOMP into the leading edge of the electronic revolution of all insurance, a very smart company president who brought us into the 21st century, recognizing that the webinar, I have nicknamed it the AlaComp get it? Is the latest, greatest way to give you the same most valuable workers' compensation information without the travel time in a relaxed setting, your office, and with copies of the slides, printable if you wish. You can even ask questions and be given the timely responses you need and deserve. We want your WorkComp buy-in. That is a committed safety program tied into your WorkComp program and supervised carefully by senior management with some technical assistance. Meet Kamapopo the mouse. He's prepared to deal with adversity, and he has a profound message for you. The adage, if you do not study history, you're bound to repeat it, and if your accident rates have been less than good, you're most likely to see them continue less than good. Do us all a favor and save money and injuries and seriously invest in studying the past and committing to correcting the mistakes. Pretty smart mouse, don't you think? How did this process begin? In 1874, Kaiser Wilhelm and Otto von Bismarck met in Rudesheim, Germany, and by the way, I've been there, at a retreat on top of a small mountain overlooking the Rhine to solve a problem. The German work guild workers and their families were starving to death, literally, before the injured worker could get their cases heard and themselves paid after suffering work injuries. They created, and you'll hear this term frequently in dealing in workers' compensation, the collective bargain, which says if the worker would give up the rights to litigation, the employers would then resolve the injuries where the burden of proof was met in an expeditious manner outside the judicial system. This also prevented the employer from becoming insolvent due to high litigation costs. A win-win for both parties, and it has been adopted throughout the world to the benefit of both parties. What is workers' compensation? You got it. Workers' compensation is insurance. It's the second most expensive insurance an employer purchases, and it's second only to health insurance, and it is state regulated. It provides wage replacement and medical benefits to injured workers who make the burden of proof of injury at work. AlaCOMP is your workers' compensation insurer, and we're proud to serve you. Don't forget the collective bargain. Why was workers' compensation created? It was created to prevent employers from going out of business and ensures security of injury compensation for injured workers, thereby providing immunity for both parties. And note the fun fact, Alabama's workers' compensation law will turn 100 on January 1st, 2020. So there's a great deal of history in this law. Workers' compensation insurance broken down. Workers' compensation is first disability insurance. It provides weekly payments that replace the wages the worker was receiving. It's risk insurance. It compensates for economic loss of past and future wages. It's medical insurance for the injury, and AlaCOMP pays the fee schedule. It's life insurance for workers that die from injury, and we certainly hate that. But that's all in one package, and it's called workers' compensation. Do four things really well. The comprehensive thread that runs through all that we do for our customers is the highest quality claims case management principles that you will experience if you do these four things. hire quality people. Go the extra mile to interview, to vouch, to verify the people you hire. Once you do hire the very best people, train these quality people with your best people, not the most expendable people that you have in the workforce. Focus on loss control. Have your safety managers meet with the new employee and cover everything once, twice, 3 times as necessary. File your claims very timely. Very timely means within a day of it happening if possible, because there's costs associated with delay. The workers' compensation law. You'll see in the paper awards for very high damages and punitive damages. None of that applies. None of that applies in workers' compensation. There's generally no award for pain and suffering. The exceptions, outrageous cases where there's egregious behavior, but we don't often see that. What is workers' compensation? Highest quality injury exposure insurance. The industry itself is a $90 billion industry. Now, that you have to compare that to what else is out there, health insurance. Health insurance is a $2.5 trillion industry. So if you compared the two, workers' compensation would be slightly more than 1/25 of health insurance as far as cost goes. AlaCOMP Resources, and this is important to you. AlaCOMP provides a laundry list of resources to assist our employers. We encourage electronic claims filing. It's much faster, easier to use. When you have a claim, expect frequent contact from the claims adjusters as they evaluate and process the claim. You'll also be exposed to our claims reporting guide, an excellent document you should keep on hand. And we provide the forms, email, fax. You can also come in with your reports by mail. Day-to-day contact on claims reporting by the claims adjusters. We do provide training, online webinars such as this one today, a safety library where you can request information be provided to you very quickly, and hazard alerts. We serve you and we serve your employees. Terms of interest, and this is important. What is disability? Disability is the inability to perform the tasks of a working person because of a work injury. Work-related injury happened at work as a result of work or while doing work. Mechanism of injury, in other words, how did it happen? Work-related event caused the injury. Maximum medical improvement. No matter how much additional medical you receive, you're not going to get significantly better. You have lost what you had as capability, i.e. leaving disability. Compensability. A work-related injury / injurious exposure is the only injury we cover. So let me repeat that. Compensability, a work-related injury or injurious exposure, only injury we cover. Accident or incident, we're going to cover more of this. There are approximately 600 incidents, and this was studied by professionals, for every accident. Could have, would have, maybe should have, but there was no injury, so therefore no disability. It would therefore then be an incident. Allowed condition. We only cover what your treating doctor states was caused by the injury and the specific body parts they've identified as injured. We cover only what the treating doctor states, okay? Basic claims information. As soon as you're notified of an injury, the claim is to be filed. and it's filed on the Alabama Workers' Compensation Claim File Number 2. Medical claims. Medical claims are defined as less than 4 days disability, less than 4. Lost time claims, 4 or more days disability as established, and this is important, by the treating doctor. This claims can be filed by electronic or paper. We encourage electronic filing. It is faster. Also, we can be contacted on the web portal. We will provide you a user ID and a password. Smarten up by using our claims reporting guide. Our instructional guide on our website is www.alacompins.com. There's the contact information for AlaCOMP at the bottom of the slide. Have a sound workers' compensation strategy, and it all begins with wellness. You want your employees to be as healthy and well as possible. The ones that are tend to suffer less injuries. Employee selection processes. We already discussed quality hiring. Please make sure every hire is a quality hire. Fraud prevention. Yes, there's fraud in workers' compensation, and we'll cover that a little bit later as well. But basically, we see about 15 to 20% workers' compensation fraud in the industry. Drug-free workplace. As you know, drugs are pervasive in our society, and we hope to keep them out of the workplaces. We'll have more on that along the way here too. And management commitment. You need to model a way for your programs to be successful. Accidents and incidents. Every accident has kind of a indicator, if you will. There are 600 or more incidents where you should have seen that it was potentially possible for an accident to occur. So where someone has a near miss, what should you do? Create an accident or incident report. Look at why you failed to have an accident, thank goodness, and why, fortunately, you had just an incident. This will take senior leadership with technical support. Always on an incident or an accident, document the who, what, where, when, why, and how. 3-point contacts. AlaCOMP does 3-point contacts. Routinely, the adjuster is going to contact the injured worker for a statement of the injury. They're then going to contact the employer for a statement of the injury. And they'll follow up by contacting the provider, seeing if the statements are consistent. We would like to know that everything is as it should be, and adjusters do that by doing 3-point contacts for all lost time claims and many of the more serious medical-only claims. We require that the adjusters perform these contacts within within 72 hours of receipt of the claim. And we compare the 3 statements for consistency. The accident incident report. Now that you know that you get on average 600 incidents, notices of potential accidents, investigate every incident and your accident injuries will go down. And I've outlined for you here what you need to do. Immediately get the medical care for the injured worker. If it's a serious injury, immediately go to the emergency room. If it's not a serious injury, to the urgent care, to your treating doctor. And there's a serious difference in cost. Emergency rooms can run from 3 to 5 to even more than that times more expensive for the same services as the urgent care. So where possible, and obviously the seriousness of the injury defines this. Try and send them to the urgent care if it's a non-serious injury. If it's serious, though, you need to take them to the emergency room yourself immediately. Document who, what, where, when, why, and how. Was it workplace violence? List the witnesses. Pictures taken. You want to take a picture if you can, if there's something to be covered there. What were the injuries? Cause of the accident, and share this information with your staff so they don't repeat it. Claims management plan. Have your claims management accident incident plan ready. It should be on the shelf, ready to go. Assemble the team for sign of an accident, evaluate or incident, evaluate the circumstances, take pictures, document in a report, and share with the employees. And by the way, be sure and send in the WCC2, the Workers' Compensation Claim Form. If it's a serious injury, you may want to talk with our safety manager and discuss OSHA 300 requirements. Claim statistics. What is a medical-only claim or no lost time claim? It's a claim that has no more than 3 days disability. The average cost of a medical-only claim is about $900. Estimate for every delay in reporting, there's an additional cost to that. And so it's about $100. How about lost time claims? More than 3 days, so it's 4 or more days, more than 3 days of disability. The average cost of every lost time claim is $38,000. Please note that at least 20 of the top 30 claims are related to the back and the neck. Estimate for every delay in reporting a lost time claim, about $1,000 a day. Okay? And what are the comp rates for the injured workers? The minimum comp rate currently in the state of Alabama is $229, and the maximum is $832 per week. Mileage for to and from the doctor's office currently changed the 1st of January to 53.5 cents per mile. Key points in a claim. To and from work rule. An injury that occurs while an employee is traveling to and from is normally not, from his home, is normally not work-related. Heart attack. As a normal everyday event of life, heart attacks normally do not qualify as workers' compensation conditions. The due process effects are not impeded by workers' compensation in a court case. You can see dating back to 1917, New York Central Railway versus White. So it was challenged but found that it did not impede workers' compensation. Key facts. Just so you know, it is illegal in Alabama to ask a prospective employee if they have ever filed workers' compensation. Employers are generally immune from negligence claims, but they are not immune from gross negligence claims. Don't go there. Respect the law on this. Follow the rules. Injured workers are allowed to have lawyers in their claims. The lawyers are capped at 15% of indemnity or their fees, and that's charged to the injured worker. The state of Alabama makes available ombudsman services to those unrepresented. The ombudsman toll-free number is listed there and is very beneficial to those that wish to avail themselves of that service. The 4 elements of a claim, and this is important. Your focus on a claim should be on the severity of the claim because that is where the serious injuries are and the cost is. The frequency of a claim is a concern, but certainly not as important as severity. Duration of a claim, the amount of time that the injured worker is out of work, and obviously you will benefit if you offer less duty or light duty for the injured worker. And lag time is the date of injury to the date of file. And as you saw, in a medical-only claim, about $100 in delay of lag time. On a lost time claim, about $1,000. So that plays in the process. The 6 defenses an employer may use. When you have a claim, you need to look and see if, in fact, any of these defenses apply. If you hear from other workers or you suspect that there's an intentional accident, and they do happen, you'd want to investigate that. Absolutely do not, under any circumstance, tolerate horseplay. Horseplay leads to injuries, and injuries lead to costs and injuries to the injured worker. Drugs and alcohol. Do not allow drugs and alcohol into your workplace because they, in turn, can cause injury as well. Caused by another employer. This is called subrogation. And you'll find out here shortly that even if someone else causes your accident, and the courts respect that, they return only about 20% at most of the damages done because of their causing your accident. Act of God and fraud. So those are your 6 defenses. Knowledge of basic medical injuries. Have some basic knowledge of medical injuries because treating doctors are going to specify allowed conditions, and you need to know what parts of the body are affected so that you can determine if, in fact, you can offer light duty and return to the injured worker to work as soon as the treating doctor allows. Do not deviate from them without medical doctors establishing the burden of proof. If it's not on the basic medical intake, it should be aggressively scrutinized. You should be required to pay for the injuries you caused, no more, no less. Again, encourage modified duty, also known as light duty, at every opportunity. Remember, and this is very important, the initial burden of proof of injury is always the claimant's responsibility. Alabama's employers' rights, and please note it says employers' rights. You only have 2. The courts allow you 2 things that you can control. One, you choose your treating doctor, and this is probably the most valued right that you have. It's very important. Choose a good, fair, honorable treating doctor you can send your employees that get injured to, and they in turn can evaluate appropriately and then refer to a specialist if they choose to, not you, if they choose to. And the second right is investigate the claim. You've got your investigating team in place. They're investigating incidents. They're investigating accidents. And you're doing all you can do within the rights provided by the law. Drugs today. More are taken in the workplace today than ever before. Drugs are exponentially stronger. The marijuana of the 1970s is estimated to be at least 1/10 what it is today. So the marijuana today is at least 10 times stronger. Legal drugs are now the drugs of preference in more than 50%. In fact, the number is about 51 or 52%. So illegal drugs, if you will, are the smaller number. So the legal drugs are out there and they're pervasive. Drug users are 5 times more likely to injure themselves and their coworkers, and the injuries are 5 to 7 times more severe. So you don't want them in your workplace if they're on drugs. Set up a recurring drug test for your employees. Fatal drug overdoses, Jefferson County had 57 in 2012, and that's the last data I have on that. But to put it in perspective, and you'll see this number soon too, 47,700 people overdosed on drugs last year. The accident rate for driving, 33,000 people were killed in accidents. So you can see that and workplace violence, gunshot violence killed 33,000 as well last year, and this is nationwide. Drug policy. The next slide after this one is the actual documents you need to print down and give to each of your employees. Have the employees sign the document, put it in their personnel folders, educate your employee. There will be no compensation if they test positive and it's approximate cause of the injury. It's no compensation if they test positive and it's a proximate cause of the injury, not the sole cause, proximate cause. Here is that form. And burden of proof. Employees must provide both medical and legal causation for the claim to be compensable. It's their job to indicate to you, the employer, that they suffered medical injuries and there was a reason in the workplace that they suffered them that caused their injury. It's not necessary to prove that the on-the-job accident was the sole cause or even dominant cause for medical causation. It's necessary that the on-the-job accident was in fact a contributing cause. In a non-accidental injury, claimant must meet their medical causation burden of proof by clear and convincing evidence. Please pay attention around the holidays. We've got February 28th, Mardi Gras coming up. And in Alabama, some claims tend to increase during that time and on other holidays. So just be aware of that. Distracted driving. This has becoming a real topic in the last 10 years. Create a policy. AlaCOMP has a policy. And it encourages all employees to oppose distracted driving. I know you sit at traffic lights and you see people doing with the fingers the tweets and the texts and all, but your employees, while they're driving for you, and hopefully while they're driving for themselves to and from work, should not be tweeting and texting while driving. It can have a serious impact on the employee, and health insurance kicks in when it's off the job. Discourage fatigue driving by allowing driving breaks as necessary. So if you're building routes for your drivers, you might be aware that after they've had a big lunch, fatigue driving is one of the considerations. So you might wish to allow them driving breaks as necessary. Workplace violence, and I would tell all our employees in writing, it will not be tolerated. Constantly evaluate your workplace climate. Educate your employees on workplace violence. Do not allow guns in your workplace. If you're having a personnel issue, provide the due diligence security necessary to prevent it from occurring. Be extra sensitive to employee terminations, lock outside doors, and be on alert for possible trouble. Do not tolerate hot horseplay or harassment. You might, if you use a door code, change it as well if you terminate an employee so that your place is protected. Subrogation. We mentioned subrogation before as one of the 6 defenses. This is when someone else causes injury to your employee. If you have a driver, someone else runs into your driver, they're at fault, they're cited. You may wish to let us know so that we can, in turn, see if we can get some return on the cause of the accident, subrogation. But it's normally well less than 25%. I use a figure of 20% of the total cost, and sometimes it's not even that high. But it's normally never higher than that. Understand workers' compensation is a state-managed system. Workplace, the future. This is one of my favorite slides. 2 new significant workplace hazards. Global bioterrorism, an example would be anthrax or bird flu, and emerging diseases. And we saw that last year in force. Zika virus and Nile virus. Employers must respond to controlling the threat to the workplace, and viruses don't stop at the door of the workplace. The Japanese added a new contribution a few years back called karashi, and that's working an employee to death. And some of it's normally in the electrical industry, computer industry, and they were having their employees work 120 hours plus over a number of weeks, and they were having fatals from that. That is karashi. Fraud. Estimates as high as 20%. They fall into 4 parts. False injury, saying they were hurt when they were not. Inflated injury, that's where your knowing of the body parts helps. They might say it hurt the finger at first and then carry it to the shoulder. Old injury, trying to once again obtain coverage for a new injury as an old injury. You have to be careful with that. And worker works under the table and is drawing work comp or is a malingerer. Important point, don't forget that work comp payments are not taxable. What about unemployment payments, just for a second? They are taxable. So somebody savvy in the work comp area would know that if they wanted to maximize, they might go to work comp rather than unemployment. Possible types of work comp fraud categories. These are the categories we normally see. Doctors, and there are numerous ways. They can bill for services they didn't provide. They can split the bill apart, expect payments rather than consolidate the bills. There are just numerous ways they can experience and cause fraud. Lawyers, they might encourage injured workers to file when in fact they were not injured. Employers, many times that's an issue, and I'll cover that a little more in depth here in a second. Insurance company employees, we're always watching for that. And claimants, which is the normal work comp fraud category we see the most of. It's not the most expensive necessarily or the most frequent, but we do hear about it more. The total process of fraud in workers' compensation accounts for $7.2 billion. And again, you recall that the industry is a $90 billion industry. Now, here's the slide I was just talking about. Most common employer fraud: underreporting payroll, not charged properly for the insurance, inflating experience, employer claims workers are more trained and experienced than they are. Why does that matter? Well, new employees tend to get injured, and untrained employees tend to get injured more often. So that's important. Evasion, not covering all the employees, just some of them. And through opt-out plans, not obtaining necessary coverage. And that's ERISA. What do our most successful employers look like? They use a quality treating doctor with the appropriate specialist referrals. We can help you with that. Our adjusters know who's fair and who's knowledgeable of the WorkComp process. Drug test all WorkComp claims within 24 hours. AlaCOMP will pay it if you do. So if a person gets hurt, insist that when you send them to the treating doctor, they get drug tested. Conduct regular and frequent safety meetings. Safety is the key to a successful WorkComp plan. Top management openly embraces safety. If you see something that's inappropriate, you stop it, you correct it, you fix it. The employees need to see you doing it. Do quality accident investigations. You'll have an accident investigation team. You'll also have an incident investigation team. They're equally important. An incident leads to an accident in almost every case. Investigate the misses. There are 600 near misses for every accident, and fix the problem. Reward safety success. Now, this is up to you how you choose to do that. And hire quality workers, and we've covered that. Provide substantial training to all new employees. Use the best to train, not the worst to train. Alabama is on the Gulf Coast. We all know that. And I consider this slide our little lanyard, if you will, a little extra information so that you know that the Jones Act, which you'll hear about at times, applies to seafarers who operate more than 50 feet from the shore, and the Longshore and Harbor Workers Compensation Act, which operates further. Applies to working non-seafarers aboard navigating vessels, and AlaCOMP does not cover either. But if you're in the Mobile, Gulf Shores, Daphne, Fairhope area, that certainly is a topic that comes up periodically. Thank you for your support. The plan, reduce your injuries, thereby improving your safety performance, lowering your experience modifier, and increasing your profit margin. Just do it well. The best workers' compensation plan is a safety-focused work environment. Thank you for being an important part of AlaCOMP. Now, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
If you would like to ask a question, simply press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, that is star 1 on your telephone keypad. As a reminder, you may also ask a question through your web console. Locate the Q&A panel on the lower right-hand corner of your screen, type your question in the open area, and click Send to submit. Operator, do we have any questions in the queue?
No, there are no questions in the queue.
May I use our name? The first question, this is Wayne Curry, and I'm live. I'm very pleased to be here. I want to thank you very much for coming to the webinar today. Our goal is to be as safe and effectively safe as possible, and I'm happy to answer any questions that are presented. The first question that was presented from the audience, and this is in writing, is what about the new OSHA rule? Please clarify that, if you will. I am not aware of any new OSHA rule that affects this presentation? Drug testing in the new OSHA rule is a clarification. Back in November, there was a notice by OSHA that they were considering whether or not all work comp claims should be allowed to be drug tested. That was never implemented. I had discussions with our law firm, that's Moody and Associates, and the same current policy prevails. We currently request that if, in fact, you have a work-related injury, you go ahead and drug test that employee. There's no other guidance out there that we've seen, and this comes from our attorney group, that affects that in any way. I hope that answers your question, and thank you. That was a very good question. Next question.
Our next question is from Mark Glidewell, Wayne, and he asked, just to make sure, he wants us to know that wages received by the employee from a workplace accident are not taxable to the employee. Okay.
All workers' compensation, that's a good question. Thanks a lot, Scott. All questions like that, especially when it comes to receiving workers' compensation benefits, are not taxable. Okay? They are not taxable. Many people prefer to get workers' compensation benefits if, in fact, that is the case, but they are not taxable to the employee. Whereas, in contrast, unemployment insurance, they are taxable. Unemployment insurance benefits are taxed. Workers' compensation benefits, not taxed. Okay, good question.
Okay, the next question asks, do we have a safety manual to go by?
Scott, do we have a safety manual to go by?
A lot of this information can be found in a generic format on our online safety library. You can find that on our website, www.alacompins.com, and by clicking on the Safety Bee icon, and then from there you can go into the safety library. If for whatever reason you do not have a username and password for our safety library, that can be provided to you at no charge. You can send me an email at Scott, S-C-O-T-T, at AlaCompINS.com, and I can get your username activated and sent out to you so that you'll be able to access that. I can also walk you through some of the different safety programs and other written materials that are available to you on our website.
And let me ask, Scott, at this point, if they wanted you to come out and see them and consult with them, are you available to do that, please?
Absolutely. We're available for on-site visits. Again, you can shoot me an email, Scott at AlaCompINS.com, or you can give me a call. My cell number is always the best way to reach me because of my travel schedule, and that's 256-794-9591, and we can schedule an appointment to come out and do an inspection or assist you with implementing some of these programs and procedures at your facility.
Very good. Did you want to repeat that email address again? They can contact.
Yeah. It's Scott, S-C-O-T-T, at AlaCompINS.com.
Okay, next.
And then cell phone number is 256-794-9591.
Very good. Next question, please.
There's a couple of questions asking how to access the PowerPoint notes. this webinar in its entirety within, I think it takes a couple of days, several days to a week or so, will be available on our website for replay.
It will.
Also, the PowerPoint slides themselves will be available on our website as well.
Absolutely.
Again, you can find that information by clicking on the Safety Bee icon from our homepage. Then,
bottom of the screen on the right.
From the Safety Bee icon, you can click on Webinars to replay the webinar, or you can click on a tab that says PowerPoint Slides and download the slides from this particular webinar or from any of our previous webinars.
Okay, next slide, please.
And that's all the questions we have so far on the chat. If you have any other questions, you can ask those live, or you can submit those questions through the chat box.
And we'll be happy to answer them. Thank you very much for attending. At this point, we have no further questions to answer, and we'll bid you a good day.
Thank you again for joining us today. This concludes today's web conference, and you may now disconnect.